Residents Association has focused on the public benefit of this project. The March 26, 2015 community meeting the Gordon Head Residents Association attended was an occasion for information sharing and communication between the proponent and the neighbors. Since November 1st, 2015, the Gordon Head Residents Association has met on 6 occasions with the Arrow Road Action Committee concerning Mount Doug Seniors Housing Society development application at 1550 Arrow Road. Our purpose was to facilitate communication between RAC, I call them, and the proponent and Saanich. When the June 16, 2015 GHRA referral response was prepared, there was no rezoning application notification sign on the property, so most adjacent residents were unaware of the proposal. The GHRA again suggests that public notification signs be erected well before referral comment deadlines. The GHRA forwarded comments to Saanich Planning on June 16, 2016 that met the 30-day limit of the June 5th Saanich referral. The GHRA took the middle ground between the overly simplistic no objection and approval not recommended. Our comments are included in the following. The directors generally have no objections but do have suggested changes or concerns. The proponents are to be commended for engaging Mount Douglas Court residents, adjacent residents, and the GHRA board early in the review process. The Mount Douglas Court Society and its consultants should continue to engage adjacent residents, particularly concerning building setbacks, fencing, and vegetation buffers to reduce the impact of the higher density and site coverage. Upgrades to Arrow Road should be considered to improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists. The existing road and contiguous paved pedestrian path are already deficient for existing traffic volumes, and the GHRA will post this proposal on the association's website with contact names for residents to ask questions or state concerns to be forwarded to the proponent and the District of Saanich Department. A rezoning application sign should be erected on the site as soon as possible. As of June 10th, no such sign had been erected. This message was resent on October 22nd, 2015, as our GHRA June 16 response appears to have been either not received or misplaced. To clarify and expand on our June 16, 2015 referral comments, the GHRA's main issues are mitigating the impacts of higher density through siting and design and upgrades to Arrow Road. Regarding 1550 Arrow Road, the GHRA is very surprised and disappointed that no off-site upgrades are being planned. This is happening despite the proposed Shelburne Valley Action Plan policy that sidewalks should be constructed on all residential streets within 500 meters of the primary intersection of a center. The 200 meters to Cedar Hill Road would remain as is, and very narrow vehicular lanes with an asphalt shoulder on one side for pedestrians and mobility scooters separated from vehicles by a painted white line. If approved, the applicant would build a separated 2-meter wide sidewalk only along the subject frontage, which is 81 meters, leading to yet another dangerous discontinuous sidewalk situation. The applicant advises it cannot afford an off-site improvement contribution. If this development is approved, Saanich gets both substantial incremental property tax revenues and significant additional social housing at no cost to the District of Saanich. Yet it seems Saanich is not prepared to fund Arrow Road upgrades, either unilaterally or cost shared after negotiations, as a modest contribution to the development. Without Arrow Road upgrades, the GHRA holds no position on the application and leaves it to council to weigh the merits of the project against the legitimate concerns of adjacent residents, a number of which would be addressed by improvements to Arrow Road. Thank you.
My name is Richard Folk, and I don't live in anywhere near Arrow Road or the complex that you people are determining whether those things will be built. I live in Vic Dermond's neighborhood. There was a development that you guys put forth 4 or 5 years ago, which was this 3-story building at the time, and there was a tremendous amount of concern about traffic, about whether it altered the actual neighborhood. It was on the corner of Cedar Hill Cross, Borden, and there's another little street off to one side there. And you guys allowed it to go through. And even I was against it at that time. But when I look back at all of the concern about whether things would change the neighborhood, whether the traffic would change, whether there would be, Don Mann has a complex on one side, you've got the municipal yard at another side, and whether that would alter, you've got the school, you've got Reynolds, you've got Lake Hill School where I live, and whether that would change the entire neighborhood, people adapted to what happened. I mean, it's only 40, I recognize that this proposition is much larger than where I am, but the confines of the road and the fact that there's so much traffic converging in that area at different times of the day, there's a tremendous amount of similarity to that situation. And I'd also like to say one other thing. Very few people behind me have talked about the actual people who live in that building. My friend Roy has a friend of his, Angela, and she has myotonic dystrophy, which is a very debilitating genetic illness, which causes her muscles become weaker and weaker and weaker. And there's a number of other people in that complex too. I went to the garage sale there this past summer, and I seen a gentleman in there who has Parkinson's disease, and he was shaking, and he's in his early 60s, and if he didn't have the possibility of getting into a building where it was affordable, where it was safe, where it was, you know, he had people that he could talk to and enjoy each day, maybe his situation would be much different. So I support what they're thinking of, you know, building, and I recognize I don't live in that neighborhood, but I saw a development in my neighborhood, and it was a 3-story development as well, and yet we managed to adapt in our neighborhood. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. My name is Robert Watts. I'm chairman of Dawson Heights Housing, which is your sister corporation, I guess you could call it. And with me tonight is Karen Hope. She's our executive director and the brains behind the outfits. That's why she's here. I won't take hopefully more than 2 minutes because it's getting pretty late, but a principal message we want to leave tonight is the very shortage, the shortage of seniors housing for low income people who otherwise would have probably no place to live. Remember the initial presentation done by Peter, that we're looking at people who have so little income that anything over $500 a month won't work for them. That's the area we're aiming at, those people that can't manage anything more than that. It came a bit of a shock to us 15 years ago when we had our first new building put up, and followed by the second one 3 years later. How difficult it must be for people looking for that kind of residence, because we have long waiting lists, and people coming in saying, when can you find a place for me? Because they're having to stay with others. We figured we better run a market study on this to see what's happening, and we engaged Lumina Services, and they're a corporation that does nonprofit housing. And their conclusion came the same as ours. It is extremely difficult to find anything at that price range. And that's why I wanted to leave this message with council, and thank you for listening to me. If I may ask Karen to be happy to finish off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I don't envy you your task. You have a very, very difficult job ahead of you, because even amongst the oppositions that I've heard here tonight, tremendous support and recognition about the importance of quality affordable housing for seniors. So my respect for you and my good wishes in the difficult decision ahead for you.
Your address, please.
My name is Karen Hope, 1706 Sprucewood Place. I'm a resident of Saanich.
Thank you.
As mentioned, I'm also the Executive Director of Dawson Heights Housing, which provides independent and supportive housing to seniors. Our mandate is to provide safe housing in a nurturing community for independent seniors on limited income. I believe too that that is what Mount Douglas Housing Society provide. I have worked in the area of affordable housing in Saanich for the past 20 years. In fact, 15 years ago, I can't believe it's that long, in support of another development, I stood before council and I spoke of the dearth of good quality, safe, and affordable accommodation. The situation for seniors is even more dire today, as no end of news reports informs us, as does the BC Seniors Advocate Office tell us, and those of us in the housing service sector can certainly attest to. In my 13 years as Director of Dawson Heights Housing, our vacancy rate has remained at 0%. Our current waiting lists for our independent apartments are as follows. 25 people are waiting for studio units, 32 for one-bedroom units, 5 for 2 bedrooms, a total of 62 current active applications. With very little turnover, few of these applicants stand a chance of being offered housing at Dawson Heights. Clearly, the need is there, and I think we all know that, and the resources to respond are very limited. It is for this reason, as a resident of Saanich and as a local housing provider, I lend my support to the rezoning application for Mount Douglas Housing Society. Thank you for your time.
Hi, good evening, Chairman and Council. My name's Diane Bulliat. I live at 3974 Belmar Place. I'm the house that's directly at the crossbar. I'm not, I support seniors housing, and I'm not unsupportive of what they're trying to do here. What I am unsupportive is the fact that it's 3 stories. The houses on Belmar Street, Belmar Place, are predominantly 1 story. I drive up my cul-de-sac, and I don't think I want to see 3 stories development behind those homes. I don't think it's in keeping with our neighborhood, and I wanted to share some tales about what it's like to live there today. I live at the other end, so there is currently parking stalls all across. It's lit all night long, so I have a light on in my bedroom window all night long. The residents do not smoke in the building. They don't have a heated smoking area. I don't know if this gazebo is going to be heated, but currently what they do is they sit in their cars and smoke and turn on the car and let the engine run. And a lot of them don't necessarily smoke just cigarettes either. There's that issue. There's the issue of the crosswalk. Currently, that crosswalk is about 4 feet 3 inches wide. I think we're probably the only home or the only property in Saanich where there is an easement across our property as a walkway to somebody else. There was discussion tonight about should it be open to the general public. Well, it's an easement against our property. We pay the property taxes. If something happens, yeah, we're covered off by the right-of-way or easement that's registered under the property, but we have to deal with that issue first and then go after Mount Doug. So I think Saanich, in having granted that 20 years ago before we bought this property, and I'll tell you the tale, we put an offer on the lot, we bought the lot, and just before we signed over the lot, the owner of the existing property registered it on the title. It wasn't on the title when we put the offer on the property, but we had already gone about making the plans for the home, so we proceeded with the sale. At no point did we ever envision that this was going to expand and that we were going to have that much traffic. So when we enclosed the walkway, we enclosed it based on what was currently being used, and it has been used the way you see it. That fence was erected 20 years ago, 19 years ago. It's all been fine up until now. The interesting thing about that walkway, and I guess why it was never done as an official walkway, i.e. Saanich subdividing it and owning it, the property themselves, is because there really isn't enough room. Yeah, I understand you've all been there. You met my husband on site. The walkway is, for those that aren't aware, the walkway is paved for a portion of it, and then the last portion is actually our driveway. And the reason it's done that way is we're sitting at the roundabout of a cul-de-sac. And if the walkway came all the way out to the end of the street, you actually limit the amount of driveway access we have to get in and out. So currently, the way it's sat for 20 years, it's about 4 feet 4 inches, 4 feet 5 inches with the fence. And I guess technically the right-of-way or the easement says it can be 1.5 meters, which is about 4 feet 9 inches, give or take. So we're talking about moving it to 6 inches. We have mature fruit trees. It's been in existence like this for 20 years. They want to rip up the pavement that they say is uneven. Well, you should take a look. I think that seniors would have more problem with gravel put down, road base to be walking on, than they would with pavement. So I have some concerns about that. That's all I wanted to say. I will put it all in writing. I wasn't prepared to speak tonight, and I thank you for coming out and taking a look. It's not that I don't support this, but I think consideration needs to be remained. We asked the developer to phone us, the applicant, and they never did. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing.
Good evening, Chairman, Mayor and Council. My name is Pat Durand and I live at 3968 Cedar Hill Road. So when I'm in my backyard, I face some neighbors on Arrow Road. So I feel that I can speak to this as a neighbor, although I'm not directly on any of the roads that have been mentioned tonight. I haven't prepared a lot to speak to the specifics about variances and other legalities and the questions that have come forward. I've listened very carefully. And you might not know this, but you're sitting in front of a poor person. Nobody really looks poor. Nobody really looks senior. But I would be very hard-pressed not to want you to take the high road and approve the changes that would allow the project to go forward. I hear 2 stories. 2 stories is acceptable. Well, it would be wonderful if we only had poor people of that lower number. But if you close your eyes for a moment, I'll do a little Zen thing. Okay, your eyes are closed, there's music, a little bit of water running, and there's a tsunami. It's coming over the bridge. It's Q-tips. All these Q-tips are coming. The old people are coming. If you haven't already figured it out, a lot of them didn't, including myself. I'm poor because of the choices I've made. You know, I accept that. I'm not blaming anyone for the position I'm in. I'm taking responsibility and doing the best I can with what I have. And there are a lot of people in a position just like myself who had jobs that possibly didn't have pensions, didn't have benefits, but we managed to make it through our journey, and we find ourselves in this place now, unprepared for retirement. But I'm not sitting here alone. I sort of want to put some flesh and bones on when you're talking statistics. When you're talking those people, well, it's this person. And there's a lot just like me. And they're not people that you need to be afraid of. There's so many poor seniors that I think it would give the District of Saanich, the municipality, a gold star to stand up and say, well, maybe our variances can be changed. Maybe we need to look at the problem and be one of the first communities that can say 3 stories is okay. When I saw the term high-rise, I kind of thought of like View Street apartments. In my mind, that's a high-rise. To call a 3-story building a high-rise is like Alberta's mountains. Maybe Saskatchewan's mountains. Really, we can adapt, we can make changes to our own lives. And for those people who have come and sat on this seat and said that they've had 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, the security of being in their own home, well, bless you, I think that's wonderful. That's really, really great. I'm glad you've had that security. But that's not the way for a lot of people. And maybe we just need to pause and think of the number of poor people that are in the Lower Island, and that you can make a difference by stepping up to the plate and making changes, even if it goes against some of your statutes and rules that you have in place. They may have been written in a time when it wasn't known that you were going to be facing a problem, and a social problem of this magnitude.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
My name's Jen Chiliano. I live at 3978 Livingstone, just past sort of at the end of Arrow Road. I know it's very late. I don't have much to say that hasn't been said already, but I just want to go on record that I very much support senior housing, but don't support this development in its current form, and encourage you to look closer at it before accepting it. That's all I have to say.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to council? You don't have to, but if there's anyone else.
Mayor, Chairman, and members of council, my name is David Cooper, and I'm the chairman of Mount Douglas Seniors Housing Society. I don't live in Saanich, I live in central Saanich, which is a community just to the north of you, and we, of course, we look down on you for the look down the peninsula. I'd like to thank all those who came up today to support our application to provide a space for seniors in Saanich, which you desperately need, And if and we all know that everybody has generally supported that view. Seniors housing is something we've got to look forward to, and we've got to move forward and do something about it. We can't just stand still and ignore the whole thing. Every time we make a new building, there are challenges, and there are pros and cons, and there are things that have to be adjusted to in order to achieve the aim. And our aim is to support Saanich and to provide housing for your seniors and also others in the Greater Victoria area. There's no doubt about it that people come from elsewhere in Victoria and elsewhere in BC actually to live at Mount Doug Court and other housing societies in Victoria. There are problems that in order to do this, and I understand and expect and accept the concerns that people have. I'm sorry that a video was not shown tonight, which showed of the streetscapes and how a three-story building would actually look from the neighbours. And if you'd seen that video, you would have observed that the building is virtually masked by the hedges and also by the other houses across the street from you. Because it's set back a certain distance, the angle that you get to see the height of the house or the building is not there. And also our land is a bit lower than the neighbours, as has been observed, because of the runoffs, the water we get, not from our own property, but from all our neighbours who dump all their water onto our property. In fact, we've also thought of putting a wrench stop on the north side of the house because it's a water site, but we haven't actually done that yet. So thank you very much, and I really accept you've got a big challenge ahead of you to make a decision, and I really hope that you will support us and support our parents and all those who are yet to come, who need our care and attention in providing suitable accommodation that is safe and pleasant, because we want to build a home, not just another apartment building. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to council? One more time? Anyone else? Thank you very much. Could I invite the applicant to come forward? And if you would answer just the questions that have been asked and not make a second presentation. I say that tongue in cheek.
I'll do my best, thank you. I've tried to note some of these concerns and points. First of all, it should be clear we're not for profit. Secondly, we have not now and not ever considered stratitizing this property. That is not an issue. The neighbors that spoke against this project say that they have taken a position on getting a survey from residents, and they've had 57 people notify that they didn't want this development as part of that survey. Our own survey is 100% of 80 people at Mount Douglas Court. Somebody asked about the maintenance area in the building. That's wholly within the building. I think that was Mark Buckland that asked that question. Somebody asked about, I think, suggested that by putting 100 units in, we could actually have 100 couples or 200 residents. Our experience at Mount Douglas Court is 94% singles, and at Dawson Heights, 90 to 92% singles, and these are in larger units. The Gordon Head Residents Association had changed their views and sent a letter to you, which was read out tonight. They do not take a position on the height or the density of this application. The height of the first phase building is 8 feet above the existing two-story building. The density is the lowest floor space ratio in all of the properties viewed by and part of the planning report. I think those are the highlights of the issues that I raised and I made notes about. If there are others, please ask me.
There are a couple of questions that were asked.
Sure.
The additional parking, visitor parking,
Oh, yes.
where would that go? Could you pull up a map?
Could I pull up a map?
got a map?
Yeah, we would decrease the number of parking for residents and increase the number of parking space for visitors. 7 less for residents and 7 more for visitors.
Okay,
That's, I think, well within the guidelines of the planning report capacity.
coming back to garbage bins, there was a concern expressed about the location.
Yes, they're at
Is there
the,
flexibility, or is that where they are going?
they will be sheltered on 3 sides in the top so that they won't be open for vermin and problems with the neighbors.
Okay, there was concern about the signage, the difficulty in getting signage up on the property for rezoning. Was there a problem, or?
No, not with us. I believe that there's some regulation in Saanich where the Residents Association have to provide a report within a certain 30-day period, and it doesn't always link up with the time that we are required to put a sign on the property. I think that was the issue.
Okay. Do you pay taxes to Saanich?
We do, and always have.
Okay.
All to the tune of $50 a month rent for every individual in every unit in the building.
How long have you been involved with this project? I have a reason for asking.
Almost 2 years.
Okay, I was going to ask if you could pull up the footprint. How many of the adjacent properties have been, subdivision areas have been developed since this site went in? But maybe you wouldn't have the answer on that.
I don't, but I believe David Cooper would, because he knows a lot more of the history than I do. But when this property was originally developed, the property was given to the society by the Anglican Church women